Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Captain America issue number 4. This was, let's just say this didn't quite stick the landing as I was hoping it would, but it is what it is. Let's get talking about who made this comic book. We'll go on from there. The writer is Chip Zdarsky. The artist is Valerio Scheide. Color art, Frank Martin. Letters, VC's Joe Caramagna. Ben Harvey does the cover and recap page art. A whole bunch of variant covers out there, and of course, Captain America was created by Joe Simon and Jack the King Kirby. Look, sticking the landing is the most important part, believe it or not, of a comic book because, excuse me, everybody gets an idea for something cool, how something starts. You know, a lot of times you have to fill in the blanks in between all the highlights of a story and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't stick that ending, remember, that's the last thing somebody's going to see or read of you. You always want to make a good first impression. And the ultimate part of that first impression is how you present yourself to that person as they're leaving. Yeah? You can be, the first time a guy's going to meet his in-laws or future in-laws or whatever, if the mom is, judgmental and the dad is standoffish, but by the end, it's like, you know what? I had my doubts, but you're actually a cool guy. That is an amazing first impression. Am I wrong? Look, I am not going to say anything bad. I don't think I'm capable of saying something bad about this art team. I can't think of a better team that I've seen on a comic book than this. All right? Like, wow. The art in this comic book is second to none. All of it. Every single part of this comic book. It's the writer. Chip has some great ideas. Man, I loved his Marvel 2-in-1 with the Human Torch and the Thing. I loved his Spider-Man, right? He's got a really great understanding and opinion of those characters. His understanding of Captain America, however, is going to be skewed. If you were to ask me to write Captain Britain, I got to be honest. I've got friends from England, but what kind of a jackass would put me in charge? What kind of a jackass would I be if I were to sit there and say, yeah, sure, I'll write about Captain Britain? I have nothing more than the most rudimentary of ideas of what the British people value, of what England is. I can't even tell you the difference between England and Britain. You know what I'm saying? And the United Kingdom and all that stuff. Like, it's way too complicated for me to care. It's too much for me to care. You know what I'm saying? I just don't care. It's not my thing. Right? Can Chip name every one of our smaller territories in America? I doubt it. But it's just one of those things. It's one of those terrible, really messed up things. I think that there was too much of this boomer mom having too much of an influence on Colton. I don't remember if they said where his dad was. Did his dad die? Did his dad just go out for cigarettes? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not so sure. I don't remember what happened there. But maybe the mom did the best she could, but at the end of the day, she's still a boomer mom, right? I did everything bad, everything wrong, everything that I shouldn't have done. I rebelled against my parents. Why? Well, I don't know. There's so many of us. Literally, the only thing special about boomers, the only thing that separates boomers from, the other generations is that there's so darn many of them. That's it. Oh, you can say about my generation, Gen X, they were feral. They drank out of garden hoses. Yeah, because boomers were our parents and they didn't care about us. For crying out loud, they needed a freaking commercial on TV in the middle of their television shows to say, hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? Mother fathead, don't tell me boomer parents were any good. Maybe there is the exception. I'm sure there's the exception out there. And I hope that if you're a Gen Xer, you had the exception. But let's be realistic. We didn't. we didn't have the exceptional parents, right? Most of us. We just had the typical boomer parent. And they put out these stupid movies at the time like the Good Son, like The Exorcist, like The Omen. like Rosemary's Child, like all these movies that basically said kids are evil. And this boomer mom is supposed to be something great for Colton. Come on, baby. Come on now. The thing that, look, there's a lot of things in here that I saw that are really annoying. Cap goes and grabs a pistol from a soldier, and he looked like he had some gray in his beard. It's hard to tell because it's just a drawing. How old, he's wearing hats and clothes and all that stuff, and I didn't see any wrinkles on his skin, but I see wrinkles on this old woman. These protesters in Latvia are throwing rocks at these guys. But I can tell you, as somebody who's been to a riot as a National Guardsman, riots get out of control. And man, when you're the only side that's expected to keep calm, to keep trying to de-escalate, until it's time to get really violent, and you got to get violent sometimes. Sometimes that crowd is not going to de-escalate. That crowd is not going to disperse. And we don't get called just because people get rowdy. No, we get called because things get bad. The police are there when things are rowdy. The police are there before the rioters even show up, before they know if they're going to be rioters or not. The guard gets called in. The military gets called in when it's bad, and the police have to acknowledge something they never want to acknowledge. We can't handle this. That's a scary moment. And we go in there, and I don't know, at the time, all we went in there with was with a stick and a helmet with a faceplate, no shields. Our offense had to be our defense. And we literally felt like Spartans, having to disperse a crowd with violence. Because if we didn't, they were going to overwhelm us, and it was going to hurt. And a few of us have been through way too much to be beaten up by some, well, they didn't have pink hair back at the time, but you kind of get what I'm saying, right? It's good that Captain America de-escalated the person who actually had the most dangerous weapon, but I hate to say this, a rock to the face or a rock to the head. Just a rock, especially, you see the size of those rocks that they had in their hands? Like the panel right before, Cap puts the pistol down from the soldier. You see, guy's holding up. That's not a giant paper ball. That's a big effing rock. And it's just the idea that, like, these people are throwing these rocks and they're escalating, getting in these soldiers' faces. You should be ashamed of yourself. I know what that feels like. I know the stories of the boomer Nam vets who had to deal with the boomer hippies spitting in their faces when they came home from a war they didn't want to be in. I know. And I know that Chip has a very bad opinion of America, and that's a shame. That's a shame. He's never known in his life, he's never once known this sense of, we have to defend our country. So we have to spend money on our military, and we have to send bodies into our military. People to learn, people to become, people to be the defenders of the people who can't. He's never once known that in his entire life as a Canadian. America knows what it's like to have to do that for our country and for Canada. Canada is prosperous because it is safe, because of the proximity of America. Canada is prosperous because it has exclusive trading deals with the most economically powerful country this world has ever known. I know there's going to be some people out there, Mansa Musa, mother fathead, Mansa Musa was not a country, he was an individual. And we have no proof that Mali actually, upset economies, but we do have proofs that Mansa Musa did. All right? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that having somebody who doesn't appreciate America, Bill, how do you know he doesn't appreciate America? To finish the thought, having somebody who doesn't appreciate America or doesn't believe in America probably shouldn't be writing Captain America. How do I know he doesn't like America really? When Captain America goes and says, instead of just joining the military, I should have, to save the country, I should have seen if the country was worth saving. Chip, you may have drawn the short straw on the IQ chart in this particular comment that you made. Maybe you wrote that as you were being hit on the head by somebody. I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say. If you don't think America's worth saving, you are lost. You're delusional. There's something actually critically wrong with you, mentally, emotionally, and I'm sorry that you dislike your father so much. And yes, I said it, and I mean it wholeheartedly. If you hate your father, you've got a whole lot to understand about what it means to be human. And maybe you're the type who's going to say, I'll never treat my kid that way. That's cute. Maybe you say, I'll never be a father because good. Because your kids would be born needing therapy. What I'm going to say is this. If you don't think America's worth saving, you don't think Canada's worth saving, unless you're a pure hypocrite. You don't think that Brazil is worth saving. You don't think Venezuela is worth saving. Every country and their people are worth saving. And God help you. God in the heavens above help you. If you don't believe that with conviction in your heart, you can disagree with the politicians of America. Man, they're not the people I go and I fight for. They're not the people I signed up in the U.S. Army for. I didn't sign up because I loved my politicians. Politicians suck. They all suck. Especially the ones who want to be lifers. The only job they know, the only worth they have is being a politician. They suck. But man, to actually think a country isn't worth saving. Not only is this the wrong character for you to be writing, and Marvel really has lost their goad. They've lost the plot, which is bad in a place that makes stories. Too busy hiring their friends who simply aren't talented anymore. They've constantly been kept afloat by other companies that have their own agendas, but they've internally just been keeping their friends employed. How are you ever going to get a real talent that way? The idea that they would allow Chip to write a story like this breaks my heart. To have him, most importantly, say something like that. It's important to pull down the gun of the soldier who pointed at that old woman. But that woman was a lot older than that guy. And Captain America has two hands. There are a lot of people who think that Americans or Christians or white people or males or straight people, there are people who think that we're just supposed to be doormats. You're going to find out why so many of us are members of the BJJ dojo. Because you're going to try something stupid. We have the right to be in any conversation. Let me make sure that I explain this with a little bit of force behind my words. We have the right to be a member or a part of any single conversation, greater or lesser, that is held in the public, just like everybody else does. The people who want to say, sit down, you don't have a place in this conversation, you can go to hell. No. You already have the directions to get there. You can go to hell. Any conversation that is held in the public is an open conversation. And yeah, we have a right to be in it just like anybody else. I am not going to apologize for how I look, for what you think I am, or for what I actually am. No apology necessary. Just like you don't have to apologize for what you can't help with being born in. But all you racists out there who think that only certain people should be allowed in conversations, and that's exactly what you are a dyed-in-the-wool racist, because that's exactly the definition. And I know a certain side of these things likes to change the meaning of words so that suddenly, no, being this is a good thing. Look, I see it all the time. People trying to stop other people from being in conversations, shut conversations down, destroy a certain kind of speech, get rid of a certain kind of thought process, to criminalize and to insult and to cancel and to try and ruin the lives of people who think a certain way. And then they'll call the other side fascists. People like me shutting up is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. That's the way you think. Changing the definitions of words is not the way forward. And thinking that a country, any country, from America to North Korea, baby, from Israel to Palestine. Palestine was never really a country, but that's a different story. Probably just pissed off a whole bunch of the exact right people for that one. The idea that you have these certain kind of thoughts, but you want to stop me from speaking my mind? People who are trying to unite, but you call us dividers? Every single country has the right to exist, and they have the right to be allowed to try and fix themselves to be better. That includes Venezuela. That includes America. That includes Canada land. Every single country has the right. Its citizens, its peoples, they have the right to try and make the place better, not just for themselves, but for each other. That's what love is. To will the good in others. I'm very sad that Chip has completely lost the plot in this by writing something so hateful. You could say, I had to see if the military, or you specifically, Colonel Ross, because that's what we're talking about here. If your ideals, General Ross, whatever, actually aligned with the America that I know, the America that I loved, the America that I believed in, that I still believe in. If they don't align with that, then I don't align with you. That's Captain America. But that line, to see if America's worth saving, Chip Zdarsky, you are hereby banned by every moral and just person out there from writing further Captain America comics until you wake the hell up and recognize what an absolutely idiotic thing that was to say. And I know, holds no weight, because we have the power. I'm hired by Marvel, and Marvel has Captain America as one of their properties, and Disney owns Captain America. Yeah, you're 100% right. You'll be writing a character called Captain America, but he will never actually be Captain America. And you will probably never understand anything until you understand that. Then maybe you could grow as a human being. Until then, you'll still be this guy who tolerates everything and falls for the same. That's a shame. tolerance is not a virtue. Tolerance is being a doormat. That's what it is. Would you tolerate someone breaking into your home? Would you tolerate someone hurting your wife or your children? Would you tolerate someone spitting in your face? Would you tolerate somebody setting your home on fire? Tolerance is being a doormat. That's what that is. That's not a virtue. It's a vice. Dressed up. Lipstick on a pig to look like it's a virtue. No, kiddo. No. Intolerance. A certain level of that. Look, it's like, look at what courage is. Courage is not bravado. That's too far on this side. Courage is not fear. That's too far on that side. Courage is taking that center line. You don't want to be intolerant of people. You don't want to be apathetic to these people. But at the same time, you don't want to just tolerate everything. You want to walk that fine line of intolerance, of holding on to, some people are not going to like this word, but I don't mean this in the political way, a conservative viewpoint. This is the greater good. A mindset where anything goes is a mindset of pure anarchy, and that's terrifying. And anarchy can exist on both sides of the political spectrum. No, we have to be smarter than that. We have to. It's upon us. If you actually care about children, about the future generations, you don't want to just tolerate everything. And you sure as hell don't want to teach tolerance. Just like you tell us we don't want to teach intolerance. You don't want to teach apathy is what you're actually looking for. But yeah, we do want to teach intolerance. We want to teach the idea that people have a right to mess up, to make mistakes, and we don't just banish them, cancel them, all these other things, We don't do things like that. No. I'm so tired of seeing people who are just angry at the world, especially when they're writing it into Captain America. Chip seems to me like the perfect candidate to be the next Robin Williams. And you know how Robin Williams ended, right? But that's what happens when you lose hope. And Chip seems like that type. And that's a shame. That's a shame. I think this world as a whole is worth saving. I don't pray for the asteroid or the meteor to come and wipe us all out. I think that's barbaric. To want a kid to look up and see something like that? No. I think that to be better people is hard work. It's easy to roll over and, like I said, be a doormat and just let people do what they want to do. It actually takes testicular fortitude. It's always a fun terminology. To stand up and to plant your flag in the ground and to say, no, you move. I know that's a Mark Twain quote, but there was a superhero who said that once. A superhero I could believe in. A superhero I could say, that guy has great ideals. Whatever happened to that guy? Don't ask Chip. He's the last person on Earth right now who would know. Like the video and watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.